one here. And an official welcome. Good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the final presentation of IBEC, also known as the shortest competition that you'll ever participate in for the rest of your life. This has been a great IBEC and a very tough one because there's lots of participants that are just doing a very good job. So it's one of our tougher years. And talking with all the other judges, we've certainly enjoyed what everyone has brought to the table. My name is Jim Arnold, and I was a professor at the University of St. Thomas. I was a professor of management in the MBA program. I have been with IBEC now for 15 years. And prior to being a judge, I actually coached and brought teams to IBEC, student teams, for a number of years. And so I know firsthand exactly what you have gone through. And I know that it is a grind that is probably a bigger project than you thought when you signed up for it. And it really is a tribute to the amount of time that you're willing to put into the subject matter and to also put into IBEC itself. I was looking at all the divisions across all three presentations, and I can tell you that this particular division that you're in, it's the toughest one of the entire competition, because I've worked with all three of your schools in the past, and all three of your schools won awards last year at IBEC. So this is not to scare you too much, but walking away from this one, you can say that you were really in a very high level group of people. Matt, let's have Matt Harrington, who is our technical person. Matt, would you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm our tech lead today. You might have had the pleasure of being under the Uber judge, Kevin Harrington, my great dad. I'm a grad student at Virginia Tech. I'm also a professional quantitative researcher at a fund in New York City in the blockchain space. Here at Virginia Tech, I research machine learning and blockchain. The intersection is very niche, and it's a bit like oil and water, the two technologies, but we make it work. I'll be spotlighting all of you as you give your 90-second presentations. And in the case that anything goes awry, I'll be putting my personal cell number in the chat so you can reach me.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Matt, for all you do for us here at IBEC. I'm going to read the instructions for the 90-second presentation. Again, as for your other presentations, you've seen this before. It is on our website, it's everywhere, but we like to read these just so that every team hears the same thing as we finish up. Imagine that you are an employee of the company whose case you've been studying. You are at a meeting in which people are discussing the issue. However, no one has brought up ethics. There's a pause in the conversation. You have 90 seconds in which to convince the other people at the meeting that there are ethical issues that need to be addressed. You don't have to argue for the solution. You just need them to see that there are some serious ethical issues here. And as you can see, one member of the team will do this. A very important thing that is that you do not read from a script, that you address your audience directly. And we'd also like you to look into your webcam when you speak. I know that for a lot of people that's surprising, because you see so many people looking at the other people that are on the screen thinking they're making eye contact, but they're not. So we are going to ask you as well to look into the camera. First up is Penn State. Tell us a little bit about yourself there, Kyle, and let's hear a little bit from you, and I'll just have a couple more words before you start.
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Kyle Kroboff. I am a third year in a 5-year program here at Penn State, concentrated in statistics, but I'm actually going to get my MBA starting next year as part of that program. Beyond that, I am the president of the Legion of Blue, which is the Penn State basketball student section. So I'm very, very into basketball and all sports in general. So fun fact.
Fantastic. I will set my timer. The 90 seconds is a very serious limit, and I will have to cut you off if you cross the 90 seconds. And I'm going to hit the start button in here a second here. Kyle, once again, everybody, welcome to IBEC for your final presentation, and you can begin.
Excuse me for interrupting, but all anyone seems to want to talk about is whether more diversity in NFL coaching staffs is financially beneficial, or if it will stave off some of the legal issues that we're currently facing. Before we get any further, we need to talk about the ethics behind our situation and whether the status quo actually lines up with the values that we have as a league and that each of your organizations have individually. We claim to show respect, to celebrate diverse perspectives. But how can we say that when we have this much racial disproportion in our coaching staffs? We say we celebrate integrity, doing the right thing when nobody is watching. But how can we expect to do the right thing when nobody is watching, when right now it seems like we can't even do the right thing when the entire world is watching us? Today, we have an opportunity to build a culture where people of all backgrounds feel welcome and valued. A culture that, as much as we hate to admit it, has been sorely lacking throughout our league's history. I don't need to remind you that 100 years ago, team owners sitting at this very table made a verbal agreement not to sign Black players, a pact that lasted 26 years. Now, we as a new generation of leaders have the chance to stop our complacency and make a change. Our mission states that, quote, "We are all stewards of football." But the thing is, we cannot all be stewards of football until we are stewards of football for all. It's time to put our foot down and make some changes to create a more equitable environment for coaches of all backgrounds in the NFL. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Kyle. Next up, we have Fordham. And speaking for Fordham is John. There you are, John. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself before you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is John Mason. I'm an economics major here at Fordham, originally from Virginia. I'm really excited to be here, absolutely delighted to be representing the team. And it's been, absolute pleasure listening to all y'all's presentations so far. So
excellent.
Yeah, that's about it from me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're glad to have you. And one final welcome to IBEC, and you can start any second you like.
Great. No morally reprehensible act committed on behalf of the Colonial Pipeline Company led to their involvement in this injurious situation. But sometimes, even as victims, obligations arise to protect those whose welfare is threatened. Colonial Pipelines has an ethical duty to its stakeholders to fulfill promises and devotion to trust amongst those who provide for them in return. It must be acknowledged that a capitulating payment may foster future acts of maleficence, but future victims should not be considered over those who have already been made targets of a tangible and largely detrimental harm, especially with the payment being a mere drop in a large bucket of ransom payment. If you were walking the street with your family and a gunned assailant demands your wallet, I would expect you to surrender to protect yourself and those you love. Colonial Pipelines has been left defenseless with a gun to their head. Their only ethical act is to do right by their family, the dutifully bound stakeholders, and surrender their wallet. If they don't, millions of Americans will hurt. Millions of Americans who depend on Colonial Pipelines to sustain the vital facets of their livelihood, taking their kids to school or getting to work to provide the necessary provisions for their families. Any complicitness on behalf of the pipeline will make them perpetrators of drastic harm. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Take a couple notes here. Excellent. And last up today we have UMass Amherst with Malcolm. Malcolm, would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm a senior operations and information management major at Eisenberg here at UMass. It's my third IBEC, I believe. Second IBEC. I've been doing this for a while. mostly online. I never got a chance to go to Boston and do that there, but it's been really great experience every year. I love it. It's going to be sad leaving it, but hopefully I end on a high note.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we're glad to have you. And one last welcome, and you can begin anytime.
Sure. So we at OpenSea are in a unique position to be the bridge between the virtual space of the metaverse and the physical space. I know we want to keep pushing for the decentralized benefits of blockchain and NFT technology, but we really have to pay attention to trust because there's been a significant breach in trust with copyright and IP violations in the creation of NFTs. Artists and users are not, buyers are not really being valued. Their work is not being valued enough. And this is a serious issue. And in order for us to address this issue, we need to first meet our ethical duties. We have an ethical duty as OpenSea to protect people's creative work, and we have an ethical duty to protect buyers' investments for not being, undermined. And in order to do this, we could implement short-term solutions such as nudge questions and an educational initiative to promote sort of regain that trust between our customers. But we're really passionate about the decentralized aspects and benefits of this space. We want to have a voice in it. And in order for that voice to be heard, we need to take part in communal regulation to ensure the future success of this technology, because NFTs as a transaction, as a technology, is going to be a building block for the future of Web3 and the metaverse. And getting that technology right now, building in the ethical values we want to preserve, will be paramount to ensuring its stability for future generations. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Yep, just as I expected, this is a very tough division. Very, very good job, all of you. I'm just going to give a few words here before we close. I'd like you to think about some of the words that you heard across these three presentations: diversity, respect, integrity, culture, duties, victims, protections, trust, violations, and buyers. Look at all those words and you can really use those to sum up what business ethics is really about. And there were four things that I've been looking for in all of the presentations, and they've been showing up very well. And when you're doing an ethical analysis, these four things can really help you in ferreting out some of the issues. And those four categories are interests, rights, duties, and virtues. Interests being who are interested here, who has interest in this particular issue. Some people will say it's stakeholders, some people will say stakeholders plus some others. And so who is everybody here? Identifying them is very, very important. And then number two is rights. Who has rights in this issue? Does this organization here, does this stakeholder have a right? More than an interest, but a right. And then you have duties, which again, you have talked about here. What is the duty that we have to these interested parties? Sometimes those duties can be legally created, but a lot of times they're societally created. And so who is it that we have a duty to pay attention to? And then the last piece is virtues. Virtues are the things that we would immediately think about in terms of business ethics. Anybody would, because they are part of having a dignified society. The simple things like honesty, dishonesty, gaslighting, all these things that also appear in everyone's personal lives. And when you put those four things together, you can really, really help ferret out just exactly what your ethical issue is. And one of the things that has been so nice with this particular IBEC and some in the previous years as well, is that even though we don't list out those four categories explicitly, they tend to get covered because you've done such a great job digging in and figuring out just exactly where your issues are. So very well done. For all of you. I have certainly heard from other judges that very well done on the other presentations as well. Our job is not going to be easy. But the next time we will get together will be on Monday at 6 o'clock for the awards ceremony. And I do hope you'll join us for that. It is very, very short, won't take a lot of your time. And it is a webinar format, so you can wear your grunge wear. No one's going to see you. So you can just pop in and attend, and it won't take long, but it's a great way to end the competition. Finally, I would like to say to you that it has been just a pleasure working with all of you. We learn so much as judges, and that's one of the things that we love about it, is that people bring so many different perspectives and so many different topics to the table. And all these topics tend to be so timely. I mean, you're talking about NFL, you're talking about ransomware, you're talking about NFTs. These are right out of the headlines right now. And they are very, very important to our society. I also like the 90-second competition because it really speaks to the idea of courage. Even larger organizations that have ethics officers, those ethics officers, they can't be everywhere at one time. And it's incumbent on all of us to be thinking and looking at all the players involved. Now, one little trick that I have that I would recommend is to bring ethics into a conversation. You can bring it in through the back door. This is what I tend to do by simply asking the question, have we identified all the stakeholders in this situation? Have we identified all of them? That automatically leads into a discussion of ethics without even people even realizing it. And you'll get credit for a lot of insight, because oddly enough, not all stakeholders do get identified. And when you can bring up the idea of who else do we have here? Who else is part of this? You will look good, and you will be able to bring in the topic of business ethics without even necessarily saying the word ethics. In closing, you are now finished with your presentations, and it has been just such a pleasure. Like, as I said, I've been with IBEC for about 15 years, and every year it's just such a pleasure to meet all of you and hear about you and learn about the different things that you are doing in school and in your careers. You're truly going to make a difference when you're out there. If you're not a senior, we hope that you will consider coming back and visiting us next year. Even though I said this last year, I'm going to say it again, and that is we will be together in person next year in either Boston or Cambridge. And we hope that you'll consider joining us. It is a different experience when we're all together, but it's a great sort of thing. And if you can't make it, I hope that you'll go back to your schools and tell them about your experience and encourage them to continue with IBEC, as all three of your schools have done in the past. It's been a pleasure working with all three of your schools. Before we adjourn, does anyone have any questions about anything on earth that you would like to you'd like to ask at this point?
Yeah, Mr. Arnold, could you repeat what time the award ceremony is going to be at, just so I could send that off to my group mates?
Sure, it's 6 o'clock Eastern time on Monday, and you will be receiving a link, a webinar link. Again, there's no expectation that you participate. You get to be out in the lobby and watch and do whatever you want to do in the background. So we do hope you'll join us for that.
Yeah, great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, in that case, I have work to do, because this is a very tough competition. I will need to consult with some others, and this is not going to be easy. As I said, this is a tough year for us judges, but that's good. We enjoy that as well. I wish you all the very, very best. Now you get to go and have a virtual happy hour or whatever it is you decide to do. And once again, we hope we'll see you and or your schools next year. Thank you very much.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you very much,
Jim.
guys. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Matthew.
Bye.